In 2018, one morning at 6 a.m., a janitor entered a public park in Cairo, Egypt, in an area called Sheraton Housing, to clean it as usual. The janitor noticed a young man sleeping on the ground, but upon approaching him to wake him up, he discovered that the young man was actually dead. But before following the events of today's story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel to encourage us. And now, let's get back to our story. The janitor screamed loudly, drawing the attention of his colleagues and nearby residents who gathered in the park and immediately called the police. The victim was a young man in his 20s, clearly stabbed multiple times with a sharp object at the same location where he was found. This indicated that he was killed in the park, with no possibility of being moved after he was killed. Police investigation revealed that the crime occurred between 9 p.m. and 10 p.m. the previous day, meaning only a few hours had passed since it happened. With no identification or personal belongings found with the victim, such as phone or documents identifying the murderer young man, it became a challenge for the police. Therefore, the initial stages of the investigation focused on uncovering the victim's identity. What forensic investigators concluded from the crime scene is that the young man was murdered after a prolonged fight and self-defense, evident from the numerous wounds found on his hands and face. It appeared that he was stabbed in the abdomen and the back, with a deep wound to the head. Police concluded the motive behind the crime was either revenge or self-defense. They began interrogating all witnesses and residents in the surrounding area, but none reported hearing any unusual sounds or noticing anything during the time of the crime. Additionally, none of them recognized the identity of the murdered young man, indicating that he wasn't from the area. All reports of missing persons in the recent period were examined, but none of them matched the description of the victim. What baffled the police the most was that this specific area within the small public park had no surveillance cameras. Even the cameras in the nearby areas did not capture any useful scenes related to the crime. It seemed as the perpetrator, with such audacity, knew for certain that there were no surveillance cameras to reveal his identity. After 3 days of searching, the police received a missing person report from another different area named Qanat Al Khairiyah. A woman reported her son missing 2 days prior, along with a large sum of money amounting 25,000 Egyptian pounds. Her son had left home to buy a laptop from someone he had contacted through one of the most popular websites for selling used products. The son informed his mother about meeting this person in the Sheraton area. After he left home to meet this guy, his mother tried to call him several times, but his phone was off the whole time. This report reached the police, who were investigating the case of the unidentified body found in the park. They felt that this report was related to the unidentified body. So, the police asked the mother for a picture of her missing son, and indeed confirmed that he was the body, and his name was Muhammad. Muhammad was a student at the Faculty of Engineering, academically successful and beloved among his colleagues and friends. He was creating content online, started learning photography and editing. People were encouraging him to keep on producing content, so he decided to upgrade the equipment and devices he owned. He decided to buy a new laptop with professional specifications to help him with his studies in the Faculty of Engineering, and at the same time to execute the content which was revolving around editing and graphics. But Muhammad was surprised by the very high prices of new laptops, so his friends advised him to buy a used one through a famous website where imported devices from outside Egypt were available at lower prices than the new ones. Indeed, Muhammad began searching for the specifications he wanted in the laptop until he found what he was looking for in one of the used devices at a very good price, as it was less than the price of the new laptop by more than 20,000 Egyptian pounds. Muhammad immediately called the number listed in the advertisement, and the laptop owner answered. He informed Muhammad that he had bought the laptop for a very large sum of money, but no longer needed it, especially due to financial problems, so he decided to sell it urgently. Muhammad agreed to purchase the laptop from this person, and he took the money which he saved it after a long time. Muhammad told his mother that he would go to the Sheraton housing to meet the laptop owner. After that, he called her to reassure her of his arrival in this area. However, after an hour passed, she tried to call him back, but his phone was off, which was completely out of Muhammad's habits. When Muhammad's mother went to report his disappearance, she was informed that 48 hours must pass before the police could begin searching for him. Here, the police began unraveling this mystery, but the problem was that Muhammad's mother had no information about the identity of the person her son had gone to meet, nor she knew his phone number. Meanwhile, Muhammad's phone was unavailable. Therefore, the police requested Muhammad's mobile call records. In the meantime, the forensic report arrived, confirming that the murder occurred between 9:30 p.m. and 10 p.m. the previous day. The victim has initially been stabbed in the abdomen, then multiple times in the back, resulting in death at the same location. The police began compiling all the advertisements for used laptops on social media platforms until they stumbled upon a very strange piece of information. A man from a distant governorate of Ismailia reported a complaint at the police station against an individual residing in Cairo. The man, who worked as a laptop merchant in Ismailia, had agreed to sell 2 laptops to a buyer from Cairo. When they agreed on the price, the merchant sent a request to a shipping company to deliver the 2 laptops to the buyer in Cairo. But on the selling day, when the shipping guy arrived at the designated delivery location in the Sheraton housing, the buyer didn't accept the devices or pay the money. Instead, he insisted that the delivery guy go with him into the public park in order to give him the money. However, the delivery guy was concerned about leaving his motorcycle unattended for fear of theft. When he told that to the buyer, suddenly he felt that the buyer was evading him and had no intention of accepting the laptops. The laptops were retrieved and returned to the merchant in Ismailia. The merchant had to cover the shipping expenses to the shipping company. After numerous failed attempts to call the buyer, whose phone now was switched off, the merchant decided to report the matter to the police and to file a complaint against the buyer to compel him to pay the shipping fees back to him. Despite being one of the simplest reports received by the police, it was deemed crucial because it drew the attention of the investigators working on Muhammad's murder case to the area specified by this individual, which was Sheraton housing, where the murder had occurred. Additionally, the fact that this person, who was supposed to take the devices, requested the shipping guy to enter the public park with him, raised suspicions among the police that this individual might be the same guy who attacked and killed Muhammad. The police reached out to the laptop merchant in Ismailia and requested the phone number of this person who was supposed to take the devices and pay for them. Subsequently, the police conducted an investigation and discovered that this number belonged to a person named Hussein, who upon further inquiries was found to have a partner named Ahmed. They both worked as trades of mobile devices and had a very bad reputation. All their neighbors testified that Hussein and Ahmed were fraudsters who had deceived a large number of people through fake ads on social media using smart programs to lure victims. Upon their arrest by the police, Hussein and Ahmed confessed to luring and killing Muhammad. They were from an area called Ain Shams in Cairo, and they always lured their victims to this same public park in Sheraton housing. Because they knew for sure that there were no surveillance cameras and the place was very quiet throughout the day, they were threatening their victims with a knife to force them to hand over their money or devices or both. But if the victim resisted or attempted to resist, they had no hesitance killing them, and unfortunately, this was exactly what happened with Muhammad. Muhammad was killed by them because he refused to give them his money. Afterwards, they took all his identification papers and got rid of them in various locations. Then they divided the stolen money between themselves before returning to their homes as if nothing had happened. After interrogating them, they were brought to trial and sentenced to death by hanging under the Egyptian law. And as usual, see you in the next video.